No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 276. And breaking right now, Essex Police admit they did oversee a cover-up surrounding the treatment of hard-left Antifa agitators outside Epping's Bell Hotel last week, as first revealed here on Outspoken, with Nigel Farage now calling for the under-fire chief to go.
But for too long you've been taking the piss out of us and we're fed up. Normal people are fed up.
Who are being arrested.
15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows stand up to racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel.
But the unrest is now spreading well beyond Essex, with Slippery Starmer now privately conceding a summer of riots is likely as Canary Wharf flares up over the opening of a new luxury hotel for illegal migrants, complete with gym and swimming pool.
But for too long you've been taking the piss out of us and we're fed up. Normal people are fed up.
Who are being arrested for.
Some of the most vulnerable people in the world, and we're just going to have more of them, and we're just going to have to understand and accept.
No, that's not true.
Starmer's a wanker. Starmer's a wanker. Starmer's a wanker.
They're part of the liberal elites who, of course, aren't affected by these issues.
The coverage you will not get on this issue from the MSM in my digest next. Then my superstar panel weigh in. Father Calvin Robinson, host of the Common Sense Crusade on LotusEaters, and Chris Davies, the boss of true conservative media. Also coming up on the show today, a shock new Islamist threat proves just how out of touch our police and politicians really are about the issues we're facing, and calls for James O'Brien to go, as LBC ignore claims of blood libel live on air. So I'm going to expose what the hard left host has said now that it's been erased from the internet, and then reveal why Katie Hopkins is using this moment to suggest that she should return to the LBC lineup. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, shocking new details emerge about the devastating Netflix decision to walk away from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle without even making an announcement. This means the Sussexes are going to get even more desperate as they attempt to secure a new streaming deal with Paramount Plus. Royal YouTube sensation P. Diner here with all the latest, and you can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. At the end of the show, we'll also be revealing today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, all down to you, of course, and you can vote for the worst person in Britain today in the live chat on YouTube. Here are your nominees. Ben Julian Harrington. We're going to be talking quite a lot about him today, nominated by It's Only Me 44, the Essex Police Chief Constable, for escorting pro-migrant demonstrators to the Bell Hotel. He should now be sacked. The Green Party councillor Natalie Beanfate, nominated by Based Gaze for spouting nonsense outside the Britannia Hotel. I'll tell you what she said in just one moment. And James O'Brien, aforementioned, nominated by Real McCass for reading out the vile anti-Semitic statement on air. No consequences as per usual for the left. 3 good choices today, all 3 feature on today's show. Looking forward to reading your comments and revealing those results at the end of the show. But now, let's go. There's a reason why the solution from the desperate MSM and even more desperate Labour government under Slippery Starmer and Red Rainer to the growing unrest up and down the country ahead of a predicted summer of riots is censorship. Censorship of citizen journalists, censorship of live streams, censorship of political disruptors like Tommy Robinson and even Nigel Farage, and censorship of channels like this. Because those in power know they are losing control of the narrative. The country is fed up of this invasion, fed up of economic carnage caused by illegal migrants and mass immigration full stop, and fed up of our safety now being under threat. So a sophisticated psyop, which has been designed to cover up the true hell being unleashed on the United Kingdom is now failing as the independent media takes over. But my God, they're going to make one final stand, which is why the flagship news bulletins on the British Bashing Corporation and Woke ITV last night did not contain one word, not one word, about the growing unrest up and down the country, be it in Epping or Dis or at Canary Wharf. And by the way, Canary Wharf was by far the biggest story of the day for the British people, with an influx of police and horrified locals.
Here in Canary Wharf at the Britannia Hotel, it's pissing out with rain, but all the riot vans showing up, just full with officers, man, like armed officers. Shit, it's raining like oh fuck right now. And these people out here in the rain, half of these people are in t-shirts, just like flags showing, but yeah, there's a lot of police around here. And there's a lot of people wearing masks with like things in their pockets, look like flares and sprays, so yeah, it's gonna be a mad one. It's gonna be a mad one tonight, I think. Even officers are like, nah, the rain, that's it, let me get in.
After a day of lies from the deep state, it was actually Reform UK's Lee Anderson who was eventually able to confirm that this luxury hotel, the Britannia International in London's business district, a hotel, by the way, complete with swimming pool, complete with a gym, with a pizzeria, was shutting its doors immediately to tourists. Tourists, by the way, that were still turning up on its doorstep with bookings, and sacking most of its staff to house an influx of new illegals flooding the country this summer via the channel.
I just spoke to the local commander. He tells me that the hotel now is being prepared to accept asylum seekers. So the rumours are true. It's a pity that some of the police officers didn't know, some did know, and absolutely furious. This hotel here, by the way, I mean, it must cost a couple £100 a night to stay there. Most normal people in this country would not even be able to afford to come and stay here for a weekend, but we've got illegals coming, and hope the protesters remain peaceful and not going to bother. They seem like a quiet bunch at the moment, but you know, let's hope it's all peaceful.
Now, the hard left Tower Hamlets Council belatedly admitted Anderson was right, announcing, "We are aware of the government's decision to use the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf to provide temporary accommodation for asylum seekers. It is important that the government ensures that there is a full package of support for those staying at the hotel. We are working with the Home Office and partners to make sure that all necessary safety and safeguarding arrangements are in place." Then proving just how out of touch this government is with its people. The hard left local MP, Labour's Ashpana Begum, a very, very bad woman, immediately welcomed the decision, posting, "In Poplar and Limehouse, we are clear. Refugees are welcome here. In the face of relentless demonisation and targeting, we continue to stand with migrants for their rights to safety and dignity. It's the far right and their hateful ideology that are not welcome here." And the Labour Party itself, your government piled in with this statement that included the line, "We are appalled that some right wing, let me be very clear, I'll read that again. We are appalled that some right-wing extremists are seeking to use this moment to stir up racial hatred against refugees and other migrants too, and we stand with the overwhelming majority of decent people here in Tower Hamlets who will reject their divisive politics, just as Al Burrow rejected Mosley's black shirts in the 1930s and the BNP in the 1990s. But of course, as we see in all these instances, the people outside that hotel were not far-right extremists. They were you, and they were me. They were ordinary Brits, non-violent, just utterly disgusted by what is happening to their area. Like this Scottish man who is in a relationship with a woman from Hong Kong who now feels unsafe.
I just believe if you're a good person, you want to contribute to the UK, we would happily accept you with open arms. But for too long, you've been taking the piss out of us, and we're fed up. Normal people are fed up. There's lots of intelligent, smart people in the UK, and we're very open to everybody in the world, but you've been taking the piss out of us, and we're fucking fed up. We're fed up with you. Stop taking the piss out of us. We're going to get very angry very soon, and I promise you it's not going to be okay. You're going to regret it, okay? But if you are from kind of a lovely country and if you do want to contribute, we're more than happy to accept you. But stop taking the fucking piss out of us. We're going to snap soon, okay? We're all going to snap soon.
And then there were these two women who know the government puts the priorities of illegals above theirs.
So she's got a baby now on her own with none of her family around her, stuck out of London because they will not house her here.
Did you guys know that just under 50% of social housing in London is headed by the head of the household is foreign born? Did you guys know that fact?
Not really, no, we never know, we don't know no facts, do we? We just know, the BBC, we just know at the end of the day, like I said, my daughter's worked from the minute she's left school, she's got no chance.
They've got no future. Yeah. They've got nothing, absolutely nothing. If I'm 46 and I haven't got permanent property and not a roof over my head, my kids are 17, 10 and 19, they have got no chance in this world whatsoever.
What do you say to Keir Starmer and others who are spending billions of pounds on this rather than housing, English people?
Can't speak about the man.
Yeah.
Can't speak about it.
Me too.
It's a disgrace. Yeah. Absolute disgrace.
There was also an aspiring 17-year-old praised by Tommy Robinson who wrote, "Very bright young man speaks his mind over the migrant invasion during protest at Canary Wharf." Watch.
British public aren't thick. We are aware that you're just trying to scatter these people into areas which you believe we don't care about. Canary Wharf is a very rich area. I would be very lucky to be housed in one of these hotels, but for whatever reason, they would favour the people who aren't integrated and who don't speak English. I don't know why. The Labour government, very interestingly, removing the whips of the people that don't like the austerity that they're bringing, want to be sly, want to go for voting blocks that would supposedly win them the next general election. Why do you think they're decreasing the voter age to 16 to 17-year-olds? It's because they are part of the liberal elites who, of course, aren't affected by these issues. Predominantly, young people are protected by issues of politics. That is why they want to decrease the voting age. But unfortunately, there are buggers like me, 17-year-olds, who are of the working class, who will see the problems.
Wow, 17.
And will, of course,
Now, do you think it was any of those patriots causing issues? Of course not. But the hard left Antifa lot, led by Green Party councillor for Bow West and Tower Hamlets, Natalie Beefate, absolutely was.
These people need somewhere to go. So
Germany?
You're saying they need somewhere to go. They go from numerous countries that are safe to come here. So what?
What would you say to women and girls who are being sexually assaulted by migrant hotels asylum seekers?
Absolutely, of course that sexual assault is awful and that needs to be prosecuted, but we can't paint everyone with the same brush. They're not, or you can't just see a refugee and say I'm a refuggy and immediately
But they're hundreds of times more likely to rape and sexually assault.
Please give me some statistics to look at. I've not seen anything statistics.
You can look at the percentage of Afghans who have come over here in the migrant hotels who are being arrested for.
Some of the most vulnerable people in the world, and we're just going to have more of them, and we're just going to have to understand and accept.
No, that's not true. I did a documentary in 2020 on small boats in Dover. One of the guys I spoke to over there, he came from Iran. He paid £30,000 to make his way over here, and he said, "I'm a construction worker. I just came over here to get jobs." That's what they're all doing. Is that not true?
It's not what they're all doing. I have a friend who works in the asylum management system in the Netherlands, and I can tell you that the stories that she comes across of people who are they're exposed to all sorts of
illegal migrants not welcome to the Isle of Dogs. Yeah. You move to the other side of the road.
Yay!
Oh, police are moving in.
And so what you're seeing there is the police stepping in, and then this happened.
Look at them. Oh, boo. More gangsters.
Right, start talking.
I should move back over the side.
Other side of the road. Move to the other side of the road.
Away from these guys. Move that way from me.
Right.
But after that happened, the local patriots were soon attacked again, with the British Patriot revealing breaking tensions rise outside Britannia Hotel where eggs are flying out the windows. Police officers quickly tried to de-escalate tensions and say there's no residents in the hotel, only staff. So who threw the eggs? Good question. Watch.
We've just seen that at the Britannia Hotel, where I am at, migrants are throwing eggs out of the windows at the protesters who are here behind me. I'll be able to put in some footage. We can see an egg right on the ground smashed, so it seems that the migrants have already turned up. They're already here.
And they've told you that they've got no one in there, but the eggs have just come out the window. So the eggs is
sit there and say, when eggs come on a fucking fit on their feet.
There's no... Yeah. Look, so there's the eggshells here, yeah? So there's the eggshells. It's come from this... I don't know how many, look, there's more here, look. But that's the sort of thing that's going to breach the peace.
We're in the hotel dealing with it. Just need everybody back on the boat.
Yeah, mate, but that's what's going to breach the peace. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
If you know, on one side, if there's sort of aggravation from your side, that can cause...
Not my side.
No, if there's aggravation from their side, it can cause it. You know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Okay?
But them throwing eggs and stuff...
So everybody's got an equal responsibility, and I'm going to deal with that, okay?
Okay, because you did say that there wasn't no one in there earlier on.
There's not, in terms of residents.
So how do they get the eggs then? Who's throwing the eggs?
It can only be staff, so I'm going to do
You know? So the members of staff are throwing eggs at us. So the members of staff are the ones that are throwing the eggs.
Now, who wants this? Who wants this madness in their local community? Residents in the Wardian London penthouse nearby are terrified. With property managers writing to female residents, we understand that some of you may be feeling concerned, especially following the protests in Epping. Please rest assured that the estate team is taking this seriously. We will be sitting down to review and discuss all our security options to ensure the safety and peace of mind of all residents. But there is no peace of mind for any of us. And the government knows it, which is why they have now briefed the Daily Mail that there are fears of real discontent and a summer of riots among Labour's top team, including Slippery Starmer and Red Rayner. So here's the Mail reporting. Labour has been accused of taking advantage of small, tight-knit communities by busing dozens of single male migrants into their hotels amid fears Britain could face a second summer of riots. Sir Keir Starmer has been warned that the UK is a powder keg that could explode into a repeat of the street violence that followed the Southport murders 12 months ago, unless Labour urgently gets a grip on migrant hotels. It comes as his Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, warned that anger at high levels of illegal immigration is risking social cohesion in Britain's poorest communities and must be addressed. But did they not get it? It's too late. You've had a year. And the invasion has actually continued at a faster rate than even under Fishy Rishi. You cancelled the Rwanda scheme. You cancelled plans to house illegals in army barracks. You're not even considering housing these illegals in tents. This is on you. As Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe put it, I am so fed up of this complete tripe from MPs. I could not give one single toss if you think these fake refugees are welcome or not. The British people do not want illegal migrants housed in or near their communities. Detain them all. Deport them all. It's the only way. Sane lefty Paul Embry added, did someone truly think it would help take the heat out of the immigration debate by moving a large number of asylum seekers to a swanky hotel located in one of the most expensive quarters in London? Jesus wept. It's practically encouraging people to protest. And former Boris Johnson advisor Ross Kempsell of Guido Fawkes added, barely anyone in SW1 insider class, politicians and hacks, etc., understands the rising anger in mainly but not only England. Obsessed with reshuffles, speeches, blah, blah, but reality is a hot August is not looking good. urgent action is needed, but instead all going on holiday. And that just sums up this mess, doesn't it? They have no answers, so they're buggering off. To hell with you. To hell with your safety. To hell with your community. And that's why I believe the only solution now is to be peacefully protesting outside every damn hotel housing illegal migrants in the country, because only then will they be able to ignore us no longer. Now, the Superstar panel. Chris Davies of True Conservative Media and Father Calvin Robinson here. Father Calvin, this is just totally nuts, isn't it? Completely nuts that they're opening this new hotel in the middle of Canary Wharf and just trying to pretend it's business as usual. But I think Brits have finally had enough.
Firstly, it's good to be on with Chris Davies. How you doing, Chris? This is insane what's happening. And I think you're right. People are reaching breaking point. I don't think they've reached it yet, though, because this will not end with people standing outside hotels. This will end in violence. This will end in civil war. I think we're still some way off yet, but people are waking up to how bad things are getting, for sure.
Chris Davies, what do you think?
Well, without wishing to agree with everything Calvin says, I do, unfortunately. I think we are heading for something rather beyond the civil disobedience that Nigel Farage has been referencing. I do think we're heading for mass and potentially violent civil disobedience. It started, well, this time around, it started in Epping, but it's quickly moved to Dis. It's now, I almost feel as though the government is trolling us, Dan, by doing this at Canary Wharf. Paul Embry's absolutely right. If you wanted to pour fuel on the powder keg and set light to it, you couldn't have done it any more effectively than moving them to a so-called posh hotel at Canary Wharf.
But of course, this is impacting communities up and down the country. And I think what's so shocking to me is that it is only social media, citizen journalism, shows like this, which is actually starting to bring the truth. And that's why there is this campaign. And we saw it today with the mainstream media journalists at the Essex Police conference, which we'll come to shortly. We saw it from them. They believe censorship is the answer, but you can't censor what's happening up and down our communities everywhere. So Tommy Robinson actually pointed out an illegal immigrant being housed at the Ibis Hotel in Stevenage walked up to a local man and offers drugs for sale. Now, in some ways, this is not at all unusual, but I think it's what we have to stop acknowledging is normal. None of this is normal. Here's the clip.
I'm videoing, brother. Yeah, you good? How you doing? You don't speak English? Huh? Marijuana? Yeah. I'm good, bro. You selling or buying? I'm selling. No, I don't have it, bro. I don't smoke. Okay. No. You from the hotel? Yeah. Take care, bro. Take care. You from the hotel as well? Hotel? Yeah. Say again?
Yeah. The inspector, he tell us don't speak over.
Why?
I don't know if you still.
That's crazy. I'm just a person living in this town. Why are you not allowed to talk to me, bro?
No, it's not. He was.
He told you?
Yeah. His security was.
Fuck, you know. Why? Did he tell you why? Am I dangerous or?
No. Must be disturbing.
But why nobody can talk to me? We can ask him if you want. Can we ask him why? Now I'm here, he won't open the door for you, bro.
And this is the problem, isn't it, Chris? Every single apparatus of the deep state is designed to cover up this type of thing. So what happened in that case is that the local was blocked out of the hotel and the security staff and the hotel workers covered up for this dude. And this is happening constantly, consistently.
Dan, we're actually having our noses rubbed in it now.
Yes, we are.
Looking at what's happening with the police now having to fess up, as you know, to the bussing in of Antifa in Epping, which, you know, we all knew was going on. And the way that the police have treated people at Epping, you know, running one of the innocent protesters over, absolutely heavy-handed, typical two-tier justice approach from a government that has lost control of the narrative. And you're quite right. You won't hear any of this on the mainstream media. It's only shows like yours that have the kahunas to actually put it out there and tell the truth. And people are beginning to wake up. You know, it began with the COVID scam and it's gone through out the other side. 5 years on, people are beginning to wake up. But really, we're already over the cliff edge, Dan. It's only a question now of what we land in. But people are at the point now where they're not bothered if they're called racist anymore. They're not bothered if they're called fascist anymore. They are interested in taking their country back. They have had enough. And when it comes to protesting, we may not be as good at it as the French are, but we are persistent, we are consistent, and the British lion is roaring again, and it's about time.
It is about time. And I mean, Father Calvin, it was obviously an alleged crime in Epping, which kicked all of this off. Habush Gerbasali Kabutu being charged with 3 counts of sexual assault just 8 days after arriving illegally on a small boat. This is an Ethiopian national. Among his alleged crimes, he had asked a schoolgirl aged 14 if she wanted to make Jamaican babies before attacking her sexually. And sometimes all you need is a crime like that, Calvin, to actually say, enough, enough. Our young women are no longer safe on their own high street in the middle of the day.
Wait, how's an Ethiopian man going to make Jamaican babies in the first place?
Indeed.
It's absurd. The whole thing is just stupid, isn't it? That footage that we just saw in a town centre, and you've got all these illegals just wandering around, vagrants just, you know, they can't contribute because they're not legal citizens, so they can't work properly. They can only sell drugs or work on Uber Eats. And so they're just causing trouble. And of course, some of them are going to be bad people, like this potential groomer or rapist. And it's the thing that gets me is that this is the little towns, the small cities, the coastal areas, the places where a change of demographics makes a massive impact, and they know this. And what's worse is they cover it up every single time. And it's not just the politicians; it is all the way down. Not just the hotel managers, but the security guards on the doors. They're always saying, "Oh, you can't ask questions, you can't interview,
You can't film. You can't film.
Why not?
Why? We're paying for it. We're paying for it.
We've seen politicians, we've seen members of parliament go down to these hotels, and they've been told they're not allowed to film, they're not allowed to ask questions. On whose authority?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they've got to man up.
That's what I want to know.
They have to man up. I mean, I would give credit for Lee Anderson for going down yesterday, but why are all local MPs not going down and demanding access to these migrant hotels? You make a very good point, Father Calvin, because when it comes to prisons, MPs do have, elevated rights. I know that from looking very closely into the Lucy Connolly case. MPs do have elevated rights where they are allowed to see prisoners and they get special types of access and privileges to do that. So surely all of these local MPs should be going down to these migrant hotels in their community, finding out what's going on inside. Get your mobile phones out, expose this, stop pretending it isn't happening, because we know it's happening. We know it's happening. We know those migrant hotels are there. Just do something, because at the moment it is being left to citizen journalists, and that is brilliant, but it's also completely unacceptable. Breaking today, the Essex Police under fire over a clear cover-up involving the transportation of hard-left Antifa agitators, many of whom were in masks, to and from the Epping Bell Hotel last Thursday. Now, this story is shocking on so many levels. It also proves why you cannot trust the mainstream media and you cannot trust politicians to get to the truth, because I was talking about this on Friday here on Outspoken. Indeed, it was very clear during my digest exactly what had happened. Watch this. By patriotic locals, including, by the way, lots of women and children. But every time hard left Antifa agitators from the group Stand Up to Racism have then been shipped in, because these are the locals, right? You can see there, they're not hard, right? But look at this lot that have been shipped in to try and provoke trouble. Now, this is a tactic we've seen used a lot by Antifa stateside and also during last year's Southport unrest. Now, what caused the specific trouble last night is when Epping Police, and you can see it here, they actually escorted Antifa from the train station to the Bell Hotel to confront the locals who were protesting in police vans. And how they seem to be trying to get around this is by saying, oh, no. We only escorted them in the vans away from the protest. But there is very obvious footage that shows them escorting these hard left Antifa agitators, many in masks, to the Bell Hotel on the streets. And as the Daily Telegraph, and I mean, good on them for getting there, I guess, but you are many, many days late, reported on their front page today, police take pro-migrant protesters to Asylum Hotel. Police have admitted escorting pro-migrant protesters to an asylum hotel at the centre of days of volatile demonstrations. The newspaper reported Essex Police initially denied that it had brought activists from the group Stand Up to Racism to the Bell Hotel, amid claims by anti-migrant protesters that the arrival of counter-demonstrators sparked the violence of July the 7th. But the footage was there. I mean, from our friend of the show, Eddie Alexander, on the day, they were actually describing these police vans as buses. Now, Nigel Farage, who is the leader of Reform UK and has at least eventually got here, said, I didn't want to believe this had happened, and then I saw the video. Well, this is the thing, Nigel, okay? Good on you for getting to this point. But start trusting people who are on the ground, okay? Because this happened on Thursday night. It was clear to us all on Thursday night. I reported it on Friday. It is absolutely appalling that here we are only on Wednesday forcing these questions of the Essex Police because the mainstream media has finally got onto the topic. Farage, though, did leap into action today, calling for the head of the Essex Police to go.
Video.
If these are locals, why are they getting in a police car? What time's the next bus? You wait 15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows Stand Up to Racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel. These were the people that caused the disturbances. These were the people that caused the riots. Essex Police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex Police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is what Essex Police have done here is absolutely disgraceful. One of the most extraordinary acts I've seen from the police force in my lifetime. And for bussing Antifa, oh, and by the way, many of them masked protesters, for doing this, heads must roll. There is no way the Chief Constable or the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex can stay in their posts. This is a disgrace.
And he is right. And anyone sane can see it. Chris Rose posts on this. If they were protesting against illegal migrants in hotels, some faces covered and waving the St. George's flag, I can't see Essex Police escorting them to a pro-migrant protest. This is two-tier policing. It's undeniable now. Sackings need to happen. From Lee Harris, it makes you wonder if Essex Police escorted in masked-up far-left agitators to stir up trouble at the Bell Hotel in Epping, so it gives Keir Starmer an excuse to label anyone with concerns about illegal migrants as far-right. And from the Reform UK councillor who was on the ground, Jamie McIver, I was there. See it happen for myself, a peaceful protest hijacked by an imported left-wing mob, the local politicians watching from the live stream rather than standing with the women and children of Epping, the media calling us all far-right. What a joke. And even some of our top legal experts in the country revealing that this has gone too far. Stephen Barrett posted, right, this is both absolutely disgraceful and extremely dangerous. What on earth does Essex Police think it's doing? Time for a royal commission of our rotten police forces. Essex Police are not an escort service for the far-left rent mob without fear or favour. This force needs to be shut down and investigated as a matter of urgency. And of course, the problem is there is a complete collapse of faith in our police services, and I don't like that. But it is where we're at. We cannot deny that. As Will Kingston said, faith in the police is completely broken down, and they have brought it entirely upon themselves. Russell Quirk, local Essex resident, agreed I was right. Essex Police did take masked left-wing thugs to the protesters at the Bell Hotel, Epping. We might conclude that the authorities were trying to provoke trouble in order to discredit peaceful locals protesting as far right. If so, this is a monumental scandal, and the Essex Police and Ben Julian Harrington must be held accountable. Well, finally today, Wednesday, so we're talking 6 days after this actually happened, Ben Julian Harrington faced the mainstream media. But do you think the mainstream media really cared? Of course they didn't, because they have a totally different agenda, which I'll come to in 1 second. But he did insist that he would not resign.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called for you to resign over this?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. You know, the communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation about view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and it is important that within the laws of this country, that Essex Police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers from the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate and we will deal with. And I think, and I hope you see from the 10 arrests we've made, that is exactly what we have done.
Well, no, we don't see that. We don't see that, because what we do see is you stamping down on people who you consider to be far right and then treating with kid gloves masked Antifa agitators. Here was his response to that.
Thank you.
Why did your officers escort counter-protesters, some wearing masks, towards what appeared to be a largely peaceful demonstration?
Well, officers, people have got the right to turn up and protest where they're peaceful and lawful. And that is exactly what they'll do. People made their own way to this location, and we saw that, and we've seen the footage. I know my officers were there. They had committed no crimes at that stage, and of course officers properly were monitoring those groups to ensure that there was no confrontation and disorder. That's what they do. That's what you see at many protests and demonstrations, and that's exactly what they do. And I want to stress, where people have clearly committed offences, we have intervened and we've made arrests, and the record of the courts and the people charged is clarity of that.
But didn't that tactic risk a confrontation?
I'm not good at every tactic, and every intervention in a public order situation has pros and cons, has choices and consequences. I've got highly professional, highly trained and highly skilled commanders and officers on the ground. I'm not going to second guess their judgments. They are highly trained in doing that. They need to react to the situation that they face, and I am confident that from the arrest they've made, from the work that we've done, that they have done that in this occasion.
I'm sorry, he is speaking total bullshit. Have you ever seen police anywhere in the United Kingdom, but certainly in Essex, treat Tommy Robinson supporters, treat patriots in the way that the hard left were treated? The police vans were described as buses. This is nuts. And at that point, he was urged by his press officer to issue a stern denial, which I think was intellectually dishonest. But let me show it to you and then I'll explain why.
Yeah, happy to. And I think, that's a good prompt, Robin, so thank you. I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there. And of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
Okay, so he is trying to get out of this on a technicality, because what the Essex Police did was escort the hard left Antifa protesters, many as we saw in those pictures, completely masked up. They escorted them into the peaceful protest. That is what caused all of the violence. That is what caused all of the disruption on Thursday night. They may not have used vans to do that, but they certainly used police forces to do that. I have seen the pictures. I've seen the video. The police are literally there escorting them into the middle of what was at the time, as Adam Brooks reported and showed on video, a totally peaceful event. And then they escorted them out in police vans. So issuing that type of stern denial based on a technicality, to me, reeks of desperation of a man who knows that he has lost the moral authority. Now, imagine being at that press conference. Imagine being at that press conference as a member of the mainstream media and thinking, rather than question the police's actions, which are so clearly diabolical, what I'm going to do is encourage the police to take action to crack down on freedom of speech, to crack down on the freedom of speech of members of the public, citizen journalists, and even politicians. This is how insane our mainstream media is. This is how fearful they are that they are now completely losing the narrative. But that is exactly what an LBC journalist did today. I was shocked, I was horrified, but here's the proof.
Behind from LBC, I think.
Hi, Shana, LBC Radio. Beyond asking people to think twice about spreading misinformation, are you actually going to do anything to clamp down on political leaders or members of the public who are stoking tensions, some of them even inciting violence online?
Well, it's not the police's job to clamp down on elected politicians. You know, freedom of speech is important to a protester. It is to government and to any person who wants to have a view. All I'm asking is that people are responsible about what they say and they consider the real world consequences. Where people commit crime online, then we will apply the laws and look at those in the way that that's appropriate to that. Where people have views that I or others may disagree with, I am just an appeal that people be responsible and consider what they say. If what they say now has an impact that means someone gets hurt on Thursday or on Saturday, then I would just ask, consider that, because those are the people that are at the centre of what we're concerned about, the people of Epping, whoever they are, whichever community they come from, and the officers that are having to police that operation, because that's what my concern is. That's the concern of the policing operation, doing that in accordance with the law.
To my superstar panel now, Father Calvin Robinson and Chris Davies. Chris, that was astonishing that LBC could sit there and talk about disinformation when the only disinformation was coming from the police when it came to this instance. The disinformation wasn't coming from the citizen journalists, wasn't coming from people like me, wasn't coming from Nigel Farage. Yet immediately, LBC trying to almost collaborate with the press for some type of crackdown on free speech. It's like, have they lost their minds? I am so angry.
You'd every right to be angry, Dan. The words that should be used are gaslighting and doublespeak, not disinformation or misinformation. You mentioned earlier on about the involvement of the deep state. It's not even that deep anymore. It's actually surface level. You've got the police, you've got the mainstream media, and you've got idiots like Absana Begum, who you mentioned why aren't local MPs getting involved in these things? Because she's too busy worrying about Gaza and Palestine action. And this guy who's on screen now is a buffoon. But he's a dangerous buffoon. He has clearly gone through the brainwashing of, here's my narrative, and no matter what the facts say, I'm sticking to it. You're quite right about the buses. It's been widely covered. It's been all over the internet for the last 6 days. And belatedly, good on them, the Daily Telegraph have finally picked up the story. But once again, if it falls outside of the approved narrative, Dan, it does not fly in this country, apart from on channels like this.
I know, Father Calvin, I just find it totally nuts that it almost doesn't matter what the story is now. It doesn't matter where the contempt or disgust of the British public is coming from because of what these people in power are doing to us. And every single time, the mainstream media encourage censorship. And I presume, Father Calvin, they're doing it to save their own behinds because they know that they are losing control, that they know they are losing viewers. They know they can no longer control the narrative in the way that they used to. But I just find it truly appalling and disgusting.
They're all bought into the narrative, aren't they, unfortunately? That LBC journalist who asked the question, "Oh, you're not going to clamp down on them?" It's like, please stop them from having a different opinion to us. And the chief of police, when he was speaking, he was almost implying that the patriots are the ones causing the trouble, even though we all know that they shipped in this busload of counter-protesters, and having them there is what sparked the trouble. It's troubling to me that, I've been to protests, plenty of protests. I can remember a few occasions where I've been on the wrong side of a mob of angry. It's the same exact people actually, stand up to racism, whatever, with their paid placards, the Soros Brigade, and the group that I'm joining are on the other side of them, and I've arrived on the wrong side. And I'm like, okay, this could be quite dangerous, right? These people literally hate me. They're spitting, they're shouting obscenities, and the police are there. Did the police get me in the back of their van and escort me round to the other side of the... Of
course they don't.
They don't care. They don't give a damn. And they never will, because from their perspective, we are the bad guys, the patriots are the bad guys, and the counter-protesters, the Soros Brigade, the people who are shipped in, who are paid to cause trouble, are the good guys because they're pro-immigration, pro-diversity, and pro all the right things. It is two-tier policing because they're all hook, line, and sinker bought into the common diversity, inclusion, and equity agenda, unfortunately. And that's the same for the LBC journalist.
Oh, big time. Big time. Rupert Lowe has now written, though, to the Home Secretary demanding answers following what he describes as disgraceful events in Epping, particularly surrounding pro-migrant protesters who the police seem to actively escort and promote. Here's the letter. Dear Home Secretary, I'm writing to express deep concern regarding recent police protests. Footage now widely circulated confirms that Essex Police escorted pro-migration counter-protesters to the Bell Hotel. This action appears to have deliberately inflamed tensions, leading to clashes, injuries, and the damage of police property. You will be acutely aware that almost all of those attending the protests were local residents, concerned parents and grandparents, peacefully objecting to the continued housing of adult male asylum seekers from cultures that share none of our values. The police have a duty to be impartial. You have a duty to be impartial in your role. Yet increasingly, we see a two-tier approach to policing where groups that align with fashionable causes are protected, while those voicing legitimate patriotic concerns are demonized or provoked. It is simply unacceptable. I therefore demand answers to the following questions. Who authorized the decision to escort counter-protesters to the Bell Hotel in Epping? What operational guidelines are currently in place for managing opposing demonstrations near migrant accommodation? Will you commit to deporting every single illegal migrant in the country and closing these awful hotels down for good? And that's really the key question, isn't it, Chris? Because they can talk all they want, but until these hotels are gone, then I think this civil disobedience, hopefully peaceful, is going to continue.
You're right, Dan. Talk is cheap. It's actions that count. And the only way forward now, we are at that point, as I said to you earlier on, we're already over the edge. It's a question of trying to put the scaffolding up as we're falling out of the sky. It's mass deportations. It's remigrations of the unassimilated. And it's about time that certain members of our political class got off their backsides and went down to Epping, went to Dis, went to Canary Wharf. You flashed up a picture there of Nick Tanconi from UKIP, who, as far as I'm aware, is the only political leader who has bothered himself to get on the front line and to understand the concerns, the genuinely held concerns of those who are protesting, despite being labelled far right, despite being labelled as fascists and racists, when it generally is husbands and wives, fathers of children, Dan. This is what we're talking about here. And it's disgusting that Stand Up to Racism and Hope Not Hate and Antifa and all of these verminous organisations dare to counter-protest against people who have legitimate concerns about child sexual abuse. I mean, this is the most base of arguments.
I know, but the thing is, this mob cannot be trusted, Father Calvin, because what they're doing is, so look, so even tonight, right, they are so organized, Father Calvin, they are so funded by the likes of Soros, as you point out, because look, even tonight, Stand Up to Racism has now launched an emergency mobilization to the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. They are going to continue this. They are planning another counter-protest over the weekend at the Bell Hotel, which prompted Narinder Kaur to post, "It's a shame that as a brown woman, for fear of my own safety from racist thugs, that I'm unable to attend this protest. After being targeted at one last year and the police having to get involved, I'm now too scared to attend. This is the state of the country once again." And I would argue, no, it is the hard left that is causing this with these counter demonstrations, Calvin.
I thought Narinder Kaur said that she didn't like the UK anymore. She was going to go live in India. I was waiting to see her pack her bags and off. That would be much more pleasant if these people that hate our country, the people that hate the patriots, the people that hate people defending childhood innocence, just left. Go. We don't want you in our country is the message. And it's quite clear that posters that she put up there, no to fascist Tommy Robinson. If only he was a fascist, if only we had a fascist party leader standing, then at least these people would know what true fascism is, because all we're asking for, as decent centrists, is to protect the lives of the vulnerable, to protect innocent children, to vet people who come into our country, to let people ask permission before they come in and invade our small towns. It's quite, decent, all that people are asking for. None of it is fascist. None of it is far right. And these far left loons need to get a hold of themselves or leave, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
One of the huge problems with a police focus on protecting migrant hotels, on trying to stop a so-called summer of riots, is that they're missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that we are now under an extreme Islamist threat that no one wants to talk about. No one wants to talk about the reality of our terror threat because it's almost too grim. But Rupert Lowe asked a very good question today about why a massive steel fence has now been erected around the Houses of Parliament. Watch this.
New fence which has been erected outside the Lords. This is indicative of an entire government that is at peace with itself and at peace with its people. It's quite extraordinary. It goes to the same as the police escorts, the outriders, all of the accompaniments that normally one expects of a tin pot dictator. This is not, in my view, a good development.
Well, of course it's not a good development. And he's totally right to point it out, because at the moment, it's like we're all walking around blindfolded to what the real threat is. But Connor Tomlinson of Tomlinson Talks has blown the whistle on what is planned. This will be disturbing for many of you to hear, but I think forewarned is forearmed. Because when we think of 9/11 or 7/7 or the Manchester Arena attack, it was that lack of preparation, the lack of understanding about what we are truly facing that I think led to so many fatalities. Here are the revelations from Connor Tomlinson on his new Tomlinson Talks blog. On the 20th anniversary of the 7/7 bombings, I received a call warning about the imminent likelihood of an Islamic terror attack in Britain. My contacts stress this information comes from a credible intelligence source. They predict a small group will arm themselves with homemade explosive devices, Molotov cocktails and machetes, and attack critical infrastructure and dense civilian housing. Whole cities could be set ablaze. This source also suggested that practice attacks have already happened. This source said that at least 8 electrical substations caught alight between March and May 2025, including the infamous fire at Heathrow Airport. Professor David Betts thinks these could be vigilante attacks as a precursor to civil war. My contact suggested this could also be why the government plans to test the UK's emergency alert system again on the 7th of September. The source warned that people smuggling gangs are facilitating the passage of trained Islamic militants across Europe and into Britain. Over 170,000 illegal migrants have crossed from France in the decades since, including a record 20,000 plus so far this year. My source warned that smuggling gangs have also trafficked arms across the Channel. They've been floating in arms shipments, basically. On the 28th of June, the National Crime Agency discovered a shipment of 20 firearms, 320 rounds of ammunition, and drugs valued at £4.9 million inside a lorry at the port of Dover, crossing from France. Where are these militants and their weapons now? My contact explained that foreign intelligence fears, as in the Gaza Strip, that they are hidden in the homes, mosques, and madrasas of Britain's Muslim enclaves. One indication of this was during last summer's riot, when the Staffordshire Police liaison officer was recorded telling members of a Muslim militia that if there are any weapons or anything like that, then what I would do is discard them at the mosque. Don't give anybody any reason to have any interaction with the police, so if there's any weapons, get rid of them. We are not going to arrest anyone. Britain has only a few thousand trained combatants amongst its 147,300 armed forces personnel, and the lowest number of reservists since the Napoleonic Wars. In 2025, 1,140 more personnel left the forces than joined. All of this is to say that army personnel would be vastly outnumbered by the jihadists already monitored by foreign intelligence and MI5. Put those awaiting release in British prisons into the mix and emigrating through legal and illegal means. The reason this information was shared with me, Connor Tomlinson asks, because the British government has been warned time and again and refuses to act. So, Father Calvin Robinson, that is a very grim picture painted by Connor Tomlinson based on his intelligence sourcing. But I think we've got to talk about it, Father Calvin, because remember, we're in a situation where the police say they are overstretched now because of unrest outside one migrant hotel.
Yeah, I don't trust our police forces. I don't trust MI5. I don't trust MI6. I think they're all infiltrated with this diversity, inclusion, and equity ideology. I think many of them will be afraid of addressing issues like this because they don't want to be seen as racist. Or some of them will turn a blind eye to it because they support diversity so much that they think it's our strength, when of course it's our greatest weakness. It's our Achilles heel, actually. So I don't trust any of our infrastructure, any of our services to handle an emergency situation like this, like I did in the past. Something has certainly changed over the last decade, and that's concerning because if anything does happen, I feel like the terrorists will be able to get away with it because our police, our security services, our secret agencies, and our government are all rubbish. What can we do? Where is our security?
Exactly, and Chris Davies, I mean, these people are here. That's the whole reason that we have been against the illegal invasion, specifically of the Channel, but it's not just of the Channel. We know how many come in via lorries as well and are not caught. And we know that so many of these people coming in, yes, are drug traffickers, yes, are, rapists, yes, are murderers, but there is a proportion, Chris, that are terrorists. And this type of plan has to be considered, doesn't it? Because it would completely overwhelm the emergency services if it was coordinated within an hour.
Dan, you will be aware that on the MI5 terror watch list of around 45,000, 39,000 are Islamists. That's not scaremongering, that's not far-right racism, that's fact. You've then got our prison system, where of 80,000 prisoners, 12,000 are Islamist, and they are running the prisons. They are inspiring people towards jihad. Jihad is inevitable on the streets of the United Kingdom. I've got no doubt about that. It can come in many forms, and every day we are getting closer and closer to the prospect of an atrocity way beyond the scale of 7/7. I suspect multiple attacks on multiple locations, and I'm not looking to incite, Dan, quite the opposite. I want these people out of this country today. We have to deport. We have to remigrate. We have to stop worrying about community relations. It is time to start looking after the citizenry of the United Kingdom.
And Father Calvin, I do think there has been a significant change in the past year. Obviously, it's horrible to think, but I can't imagine the British public going with a don't look back in anger narrative, like after young girls were blowing up at an Ariana Grande concert, right? Like the gaslighting, the psyops that have been in place, the way the mainstream media has tried to change the true narratives. I think we've got past it all now, and I believe there would be an explosion from the British public.
Yeah, it feels like the country is a powder keg, particularly the working class, the ordinary British folk, the patriots. They've had enough, clearly. This time last year, or just later than this last year, last summer, we had obviously the protests over what happened with those poor girls that were killed. And that was shut down through gaslighting. The whole media got on board with the government narrative that there's a counter protest and the police are coming out to arrest the far right and all of this. And the protests were shut down. They ended prematurely. I don't think people would fall for it again. We keep learning from the constant gaslighting from our government that we've seen over Brexit, over COVID, over all these big narratives that we had going on. So people are, fatigued by all of this mass immigration, the invasion, and people are also fed up and have learned from the mass gaslighting. And put all that together, there is civil violence, forget civil disobedience, there is a civil war at the very brink of our nation, and so it takes one instant to kick it off. One terrorist situation at the moment could be that spark that many people are looking for, and that wouldn't be a good thing for anyone, but something needs to change.
And we have brought this on ourselves. That is the most horrendous thing. But Chris Davies, the authorities are more determined to protect migrant hotels than they are to truly look into what needs to happen in order to protect us. Or they're more interested in policing tweets than really looking into what needs to happen to protect us. So at this point, it does feel like we are in the hands of the jihadists. If they want to attack, they can, and they will.
We're on our own, Dan. We're on our own. The police will not protect the citizenry of the United Kingdom. They've got no interest in us. White and or British and or male and or 40 plus and or ordinary taxpayers, they are not interested in us. They are only interested in diversity, equity and inclusion, in the woke agenda. Whatever they are teaching them at Hendon, it needs to change. You know and I know, Dan, this has been going on throughout our institutions now for decades. But Calvin is quite right. It is reaching the point now of a powder keg, and it only needs somebody to sneeze in the wrong direction and the lot goes up.
Breaking right now, Katie Hopkins has made an audacious bid to replace James O'Brien on LBC, the Labour broadcasting company, after that intellectually dishonest, nasty fool had to make a grovelling apology after clearly anti-Semitic comments sparked outrage amongst Jewish folk. Here's the post from Katie this afternoon. Dear Ashley Tabor King, copying in the boss of Global Radio that owns LBC. I do hope you are well. As you recall, you fired me from my LBC radio show for a tweet unrelated to my show. I have served penance. Please, can I have James O'Brien's slot? My Jewish family would love it, and I can beat his numbers. Katie, with a little love heart emoji, copying in the off-communists. And of course, I have absolutely no doubt Katie Hopkins would thrash him, would absolutely thrash him in the numbers. But remember, that's not what this is about. LBC, and Charlotte Gill has done great work on this for a long time, is part of now a global propaganda network designed to push particular narratives, and James O'Brien has to be protected at all costs, no matter how many muck-ups he makes, no matter how anti-Semitic he is. But luckily, sane people in the media are noticing, like Mike Graham. who responded saying, "What an absolute horror show," describing James O'Brien as the mid-morning moron. When Lance Foreman, the highly successful Jewish businessman, replied saying, "Should Ofcom step in, Mike, or are they as useless as I suspect they are? This pig incites hatred. It's not even subtle anymore." Mike replied saying, "Scumbag of the highest order, feel free to report him." Now, I guess I've got a pretty unique take on this, given the off-communists ended my career at the very, very weak GB News. And I would argue, actually, no, this is on LBC. This is on the owners of LBC. This is on Global. Let's stop believing that any type of state censor can or should do the right thing. They're there to protect James O'Brien because James O'Brien is there to protect the Labour government. But what this says to me is actually that Global and LBC is just a morally bankrupt organisation because they're going to keep backing this guy who hates its listeners. So here's what happened, by the way, if you did miss the story, and I will play you the deleted clip in just one moment, but let me take you through the story from the Jewish News, which writes, James O'Brien sparks fury after reading out anti-Semitic blood libel about Jewish children live on air. They report that the LBC presenter repeats a claim that at Shabbat school, UK Jewish children are taught that one Jewish life is worth thousands of Arab lives and that Arabs are cockroaches to be crushed. Now, Jewish News reports while there is certainly a concept of Sunday school for Jewish children, there is no such thing as Shabbat school. A campaign against anti-Semitism spokesperson described the comments as a modern blood libel on national radio, amplified by a host who likely wouldn't think twice about cutting off the caller were he promoting such grotesque falsehoods about another minority. No such generosity for the Jews. The organisation further described the comments from O'Brien as not only a baseless fiction and totally repugnant, but to broadcast it is unbelievably reckless. It is practically an invitation to disaffected people to target Jews in the UK. Why not if they are a side in this conflict? It is deplorable the depths that some talk show hosts will sink to inflame their listeners and drive up ratings. The consequences are borne by British Jews. And perhaps what's most astonishing about this whole thing, right, is that James O'Brien and his woke team at LBC were so proud of this piece of content, they actually posted it themselves on X before quickly U-turning and trying to scrub it from the internet. But don't worry, I've got the receipts. Here's what was broadcast.
Wife was brought up Jewish, and at Shabbat school in a leafy Hertfordshire town, she was taught that one Jewish life is worth thousands of Arab lives, and that Arabs are cockroaches to be crushed. Whilst young children are being taught such hatred and dehumanisation, undoubtedly on both sides, as Chris points out, then they will always be able to justify death and cruelty, and it does indeed start young. But there is a danger, perhaps, that we only ever hear one side of the dehumanisation and propaganda processes.
Stephen Pollard posted in result, in a world in which Jew hate was not being normalised, the truly Goebbels-like lies about Jews broadcast today by James O'Brien would mean no decent person would ever give him the time of day. I don't see how what he said could be dismissed as a mistake or an error of judgment. No one capable of understanding English could be in any doubt as to the meaning of what he was reading. O'Brien has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. From Gareth Roberts, who I have a huge amount of respect for. I think cancelling is hardly ever justified, but this should be the end of O'Brien's career. Since LBC just did a dirty delete of this horrendous racist incitement read out and broadcast by James O'Brien, I thought it important that there be a recording of it. And he then posted it and said he wants people to see the nasty made-up propaganda which is being spread with complete impunity about Jews. And from Dove Foreman, this is disgraceful from James O'Brien, platforming a modern blood libel against Jews live on national radio. There's no such thing as Shabbat school. No Jewish child in the UK is taught that vile racist nonsense. This is a stain on LBC and its producers. So what happened today? James O'Brien delivered not on video because he's too weak for that. What I describe as the hostage video apology. We've all been there. I've been there. Megyn Kelly's been there. You always regret it after you've done it. But I have to be honest. Given what a complete prick this guy is, it's actually quite beautiful listening to him know that he's having to read this out because he has to save his job. He has to save his £400,000 salary. He has to keep putting his children through posh public school, even though he pretends to be a man of the people. So today, what was proven is that James O'Brien is just as much of a shill as anyone else in the mainstream media. Listen.
This is very important. At this time yesterday on the show, I read out a message from a listener called Chris, who said that his wife had been brought up in the Jewish faith and had attended what he described as a Shabbat school. He went on to make further claims about what he said she had been taught in that school. As with all the texts and messages that I read out on the programme, I did so in good faith, but the message has understandably upset a lot of people. And I regret taking those unsubstantiated claims at face value, and I'm genuinely sorry for that. And it is very important that I get that out there. And thank you for your attention.
So, I mean, that is a hostage video apology. He doesn't mean it, of course, but he's done what shills do to keep their jobs. Let me bring in my superstar panel now, Chris Davies of True Conservative Media and Father Calvin Robinson of the Common Sense Crusade on LotusEaters. Now look, this is a really interesting one, Chris, because of course James O'Brien, he's like the witch hunter in chief. Okay, so he's always waving the pitchforks. I mean, he was waving the pitchforks about Lawrence Fox and me, about Father Calvin Robinson. You know, he is the first to try and cancel anyone. And I guess the thing is here is it wasn't, it's a tough one because they were not his words that he was reading out, but it was very, very clear that this was not something that he even thought deserved to be questioned. I guess for me, what's so shocking is that there's no desire to cancel James O'Brien. He makes his little apology and everyone goes on. You know, it's totally different to the reaction, for example, of Lawrence Fox saying he doesn't want to shag a woman. It just does show you that when the deep state, when the mainstream media want to protect someone, want to keep someone in post, they will continue to do so, no matter how grim their actions.
He is a loathsome human being, Dan. I don't believe for 1 second that he's remotely sorry.
No.
I think your claim is quite right that it was a hostage video. But I would go further. I'm not even convinced that Global themselves are sorry. I think that, you know, O'Brien has been allowed to get away with, I believe in free speech. As you know, Dan, I'm a free speech absolutist, so I wouldn't want to curtail his speech. But some of what he has said over the years is way beyond the pale. And free speech has consequences, as we all know. I'm quite happy to say whatever is on my mind, but I accept that occasionally there may be consequences for it. James O'Brien is on the ins, and people like you and Calvin and Lawrence are on the outs. And therefore, he gets protected. He's part of the narrative. He's part of Team Love It, and we're part of Team Exit. And the net result of this is that he will continue to be emboldened. He will do this again. He will face no consequences, and things will continue to get worse. And unless and until there is proper recriminations, there are proper recriminations for his actions, he won't learn. Naga Munchetti, you've commented on this regularly, another example, versus John Turode singing a song lyric, sacked.
Oh, totally.
It's madness, Dan.
Totally. And I've been really clear on this. It's like I'm not calling for Naga Munchetti to be sacked, but I just wish that there were not these constant double standards, Father Calvin.
Exactly.
Yeah, they are double standards. I do think James O'Brien is particularly a hate-filled little individual. This example went over my head, but I've certainly heard him say hateful things in the past. And like Chris says, I'm in favour of free speech. If he wants to be a hateful little troll, let him. But let's expose that and highlight that. What interests me about this whole thing is he seems uncancelable. I don't know why, but either he is very much in line with the thinking of Global and the thinking of the people who back him, or he has something over. I don't know. He's been horrible for years.
Totally. I mean, think about Carl Beach. Think about Carl Beach. Like, he propagated that absolute scam, you know, the paedophile who was suggesting that actually he was part of some, you know, huge sex ring, which brought down the reputations of a whole load of totally honourable people. Carl Beach, now locked up for an extended period because he's a paedophile, and James O'Brien spread that. Now, you know I don't use the term conspiracy theory, right? Because it wasn't a conspiracy theory, it was a lie. It was just a flat-out lie from a convicted paedophile, and James O'Brien suffered absolutely no consequences for that in his career. I laugh at Lawrence Fox saying he doesn't want to shag Ava Santina and my mainstream media career is finished. I mean, God, in hindsight, thank goodness it was finished because we're doing something so much more exciting here. But you can understand how galling it is. How galling it is. Like, what someone like James O'Brien can get away with. I also do agree with you both, though, that it's a difficult one for us because, of course, we are free speech absolutists. So in some ways, I would much rather James O'Brien just have the balls to say, no, I'm not apologising. Sack me if you want. I'll go and do the independent thing too. But this is the hypocrisy. He does still want his £400,000 big corporate salary because James O'Brien is a fake. Can I just tell you that? James O'Brien is one of the biggest fakes in the media. He doesn't believe any of the shit that he spouts. This dude was a right-wing journalist for the Daily Express. Okay, he came from a very similar background as me as a showbiz reporter, went through the newspapers. He saw which way the wind was blowing. So he's a fake. He doesn't even really believe what he's saying, which makes all of this worse. Interesting this point from Sarah Deach too, Chris Davies. She wrote, it wasn't just James O'Brien at fault here. Think of the long line of LBC staff whose desk it crossed, the producer gathering text, the editor overseeing, the social media person who decides that particular text deserves to be posted to their 687,000 followers. Lots of people thought it was all fine. Again, I'm not one to necessarily think, oh, censorship is the way forward, but I do think this makes an interesting point, Chris, which is that anti-Semitism is now very baked in across our mainstream media. It is now an accepted form of racism. I really do believe that in modern Britain.
It's spot on. And Diane Abbott may see it differently, but I can tell you now, Dan, that this is across the country. It's across our institutions. It has been normalised now to hold anti-Semitic views is almost mainstream. In fact, arguably, for those on the in team, it is already mainstream. And you start looking at the makeup, the composition of our MPs and the growth in support of those who are pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine action, and the new so-called No Hope Party of Sultana and Corbyn and the sort of numbers that they will potentially be getting. And this is going to get worse. It is not going to get better. I don't know who's decided that it is tolerable to have rampant anti-Semitism in a country that fought the Nazis to defeat it 80 years ago and won. But we're in a very different place to where we were 80 years ago, Dan.
Totally. Can I just say, though, Father Calvin, how good would it be? How good would it be to have Katie Hopkins back? I mean, honestly, I know it will never happen, and I know she's just sort of poking the bear and making a very brilliant point, by the way, which is, you sacked me, bitch. You sacked me, bitch, for a tweet that wasn't even on the radio, Ashley Tabor King, and yet you're going to stand by this guy. But actually, she would kill it. Like, if Katie Hopkins were given the 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. slot on LBC, she would kill it. But I actually sort of don't want that to happen because I think she's much more powerful in the independent space, and she doesn't need to go back to the mainstream media.
But you're right, she would. I don't know who still listens to LBC. Apparently some Uber drivers or something still have it on in their cabs. But other than that, honestly don't know who tunes in. But it would be nice to have some diversity of thought and opinion, wouldn't it? I have 1 week left after this week of my Common Sense Crusade. It ends next week. I would love for Katie Hopkins to be my final guest. If you think that's a good idea, tweet me and Dan and tweet Katie and let her know.
Oh, that's a great idea. But Father Calvin, I didn't know the Common Sense Crusade was ending.
Yeah, we're going on a hiatus at the end of this month until I'm back in the UK. It's just too difficult being away from it all, but also it'll be nice to have some respite from the craziness that's happening in the UK.
Yes,
while I'm
although
here.
you'll still be here, I hope.
I'll still be here. This is my nugget of UK news every week.
Father Calvin Robinson. Okay, 1 more week of the Common Sense Crusade on LotusEaters and Chris Davies of True Conservative Media. Thank you both so much
Thanks,
for being
Dan.
here today. Thank you.
Cheers, Calvin.
And of course, we're going to reveal Greatest Britain Union Jackass in just 1 moment, so do not go anywhere. But first, your comments. Julian Johnson writes, how will these migrants, if allowed to stay permanently, settle in and get accustomed to the average British working life after tasting all this luxury and pampering on arrival? She's referring, of course, to what's going on at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. Mr. Random Logo, in response to the Green councillor that was causing all of the problems there, who is nominated for our Union Jackass, by the way, Natalie Beanfate, says middle or upper class, living off mummy and daddy's bank account, doesn't know a thing about the real world. But Helen Shepherd has summed up what I am very worried about. She says they will close the hotels and put them all in houses of multiple occupancy in streets where the general public live. And this is the problem, Helen. This is the problem. I am with you. And it scares me a lot that will be the answer from the government and from Diana Fleming. It's not civil disobedience, it's civil unrest. People have simply had enough of being treated like second-class citizens in their own country, whilst interlopers are treated like kings and queens. So very, very, very good feedback from you today. We're angry, I can feel it, and obviously I'm going to keep covering this. Now, to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, your nominees. All spoken about on the show, actually. Ben Julian Harrington, nominated by It's Only Me 44. The Essex Police Chief Constable for escorting pro-migrant demonstrators to the Bell Hotel. He should now be sacked. The Green Party councillor Natalie Beanfate, nominated by Based Gays for spouting nonsense outside the Britannia Hotel. And the aforementioned James O'Brien, nominated by Real Mick Cass for reading out the vile anti-Semitic statement on air. No apology, no consequences, as per usual for the left. But of course, since that nomination was made, O'Brien did make that hostage video apology. And my God, he didn't mean it, did he? The results are in third place with 8% of the vote, Natalie Beanfate. The runner-up with 29% of the vote, Ben Julian Harrington. But an overwhelming winner as today's Union Jackass, LBC's shameful, cretinous 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. presenter, James O'Brien. To the Greatest Britain today, though, and it's Adam Brooks. My friend Adam Brooks, nominated, I love this, by Teds Hodgson for honest, informative reporting on the Epping Hotel protest. Well done, mate. And I have to say, well done to all of the brilliant citizen journalists who have been doing such a good job at both the Britannia Hotel, in Dis, and also, of course, in Epping. Now, coming up in the Uncancelled After Show on Substack, shocking new details have emerged about the devastating Netflix decision to walk away from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle without even making an official announcement. This means the Sussexes are going to get even more desperate as they attempt to secure a new streaming deal with Paramount+. We've got royal YouTube sensation P. Diner with all of the latest on this. We're going to carry on this conversation on Substack, www.outspoken.live. But I do hope you'll be back with us live tomorrow at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, please hit subscribe now. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.